Krishna. You are the original personality of Godhead, master of all mystic powers. Learned Brahmanas know very well that this cosmic manifestation is an expansion of your potencies, which are sometimes manifest and sometimes unmanifest. You are the original provider of the life, body, and senses of all living beings. You are the eternal God, Lord Vishnu, who is all-pervading, the imperishable controller of everything. You are eternal time. You are the original source of the cosmic manifestation, which is acting under the spell of the three modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. You are living as a supersoul in all the multi-forms of living entities, and you know very well what is going on within their bodies and minds. Therefore, you are the supreme director of all activities of all living entities. But although you're in the midst of everything which is under the spell of material modes of nature, you are not affected by such contaminated qualities. No one under the restriction of the material modes can understand your transcendental qualities which existed before the creation. Therefore, you are called the Supreme Transcendence. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of you, Lord Vasudeva, the Supreme Brahman, who are always glorified by your personal, internal potencies. In this material world, you make yourself known only by your different incarnations. Although you assume different types of bodies, these bodies are not part of the material creation. They're always full of the transcendental potencies of unlimited qualities and opulence and strength, beauty, fame, wisdom, and renunciation. In the material existence, there is a difference between the body and the owner of the body. But because you appear in your original spiritual body, there is no such difference for you. When you appear, your uncommon activities indicate that you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such uncommon activities are not possible for anyone in the material existence. You, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, cause the birth and death as well as the liberation of the living entities, and you are full with all your plenary expansions. You can bestow on everyone all kinds of benediction. O Lord, O source of all auspiciousness and goodness, we offer our respectful obeisance unto you. You are the all-pervading Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Source of Peace, and the Supreme Personality in the dynasty of King Yadu. O Lord, our Father, known as Kuvera, the demigod, is your servant. Similarly, the great sage Narada is also your servitor, and only by their grace have we been able to see you personally. We therefore pray that we may always be engaged in your transcendental loving service by speaking only about your glories and hearing about your transcendental activities. May our hands and other limbs be engaged in your service, and our minds always be concentrated at your lotus feet, and our heads always bowed down before the all-pervading universal form of your Lordship. When the demigods Nalukuvara and Manigriva finished their prayer, the child, Lord Krishna, the master and proprietor of Gokul, bound to the wooden grinding mortar by the ropes of the Yashoda, he smiled. Here's an interesting contrast. Here they're glorifying the Lord, the Devas, Nalukuvara, Manigriva. How, actually, Krishna, you are the super soul, you are the supreme controller, the proprietor, nothing happens without your sanction. You are the supreme Lord of all lords. they're offering all these wonderful prayers, many prayers in the, many shlokas in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And they're talking, they're addressing their speech to the all-powerful Creator, Vishnu. They're addressing their speech to a little boy who's hardly dressed, 5 years old, and he's tied up to a grinding mortar for his naughty childhood pranks by his mother. There's a very interesting contrast there. They're talking and explaining his opulences and his glories, but here he is, that Supreme Lord, bound with a rope around his waist by his village cowherd mother. So Krishna smiled and said, "It was already known to me that my great devotee Narada Muni had shown his causeless mercy by saving you from the abominable condition of pride due to possessing extraordinary beauty and opulence and in the family of demigods. He has saved you from gliding down into the lowest condition of hellish life. All these facts are already known to me. You are very fortunate because not only were you cursed by him, but you had the great opportunity to see him. If someone is able by chance to see face to face a great saintly person like Narada, who is always serene and merciful to everyone, then immediately that conditioned soul becomes liberated. This is exactly like being situated in the full light of the sun. There cannot be any visionary impediment. Therefore, O Nalakuvara Manigriva, your lives have now become successful because you have developed ecstatic love for me." So Krishna is glorifying his pure devotee Narada. After they're glorifying Krishna, so Krishna's telling me he's understood the situation that Narada has cursed them, and he's even known what Narada Muni spoke to them. And they were amazed because it was millions of years ago, according to earthly calculation. So then it was confirmation that he is the all-knowing Supreme Person. He is speaking verbatim what Narada Muni spoke to them. That you can mention in the read in the Srimad Bhagavatam. That otherwise Krishna said, "I have no business with people like you, because you're a very gross materialist, and I generally don't deal with people like you. But because Narada favored you, because Narada Muni decided to deliver you, then I'm obliged to fulfill the desire of my pure devotees. That is I take great happiness in doing that, but you should understand it's for his sake I'm doing it. Actually, you're not actually qualified for this kind of mercy." And actually in the acharyas are saying that they actually Krishna asked them for a benediction. They asked for some benedictions that they would never ever forget Krishna, be always engaged in his service, and whether they and that they should become devotees of the bridge buses. And Krishna said, "Well, that's very rare. That's a very rare position to become a devotee of the bridge buses. You're asking a lot there." Well, they said, "Well, if by the mercy of Narada Muni we were two sinful persons, we got your darshan, then what is not possible by his mercy?" So Krishna blessed them that they will have pure devotion. And he said, "Now, this is your last birth within material existence. Now you can go back to your father's residence in the heavenly planets, and by remaining in the attitude of devotional service, you'll be liberated in this very life." After this, the demigods circumambulated the Lord many times and bowed down before him again and again, and thus they left the Lord remaining bound up with ropes to the grinding mortar. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 10th chapter of Krishna, the matter of the deliverance of Nalakuvara Manigriva. In Chaitanya Shiv Shastakam, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given a description of the meaning of the different demons, how when Krishna kills his demons, they're representing different anarthas. So here's his categorization of the Yamala Arjun, the two demigods. He says this pastime represents the arrogant pride that comes from puffed up aristocracy rooted in madness for wealth. That was Narada told them that wealth is the most binding thing in this material world for the senses. This high society money madness gives rise to cruelty to animals, lust for women, indulgence in alcohol, and so on. All this in turn causes all sorts of debauchery of the tongue, uncontrolled eating habits, as well as loose language, plus cruelty to others due to hard-heartedness, utter shamelessness, and many more disgraceful problems. Krishna very mercifully breaks down the twin Arjun trees while he is tied to a grinding mortar, thereby freeing the two repentant demigods trapped within, in order to destroy all these above-mentioned faults. Yeah. Krishna Jamala Arjun Alila Ki Jai. Okay, chapter 11. Krishna killing the demons, Bhattasura and Bhakasura. When the twin Arjun trees fell to the ground, making a sound like falling of thunderbolts, all the inhabitants of Gokul, including Nanda Maharaj, immediately came to the spot. They were very much astonished to see how the two great trees had suddenly fallen. Because they could find no reason for their falling down, they were puzzled. When they saw the child Krishna bound up to the wooden mortar by the ropes of Mother Yasoda, they thought that it must have been caused by some demon. Otherwise, how was it possible? At the same time, they were very much perturbed because such uncommon incidents were always happening to child Krishna. While the cowherd men were thus contemplating, the small children who were playing there informed the men that the trees had fallen because Krishna had pulled the wooden mortar with the rope binding him. Krishna came in between the two trees, they explained, and the wooden mortar was topsy-turvy and stuck between the trees. Krishna pulled the rope and the trees fell down. When the trees fell down, two very dazzling men came out of the tree and they said something to Krishna. Most of the cowherd men did not believe the statement of the children. They could not believe that such things were at all possible. Some of the men, however, believed them and told Nanda Maharaj, "Your child is different from all other children. He just might have done it." Nanda Maharaj smiled to hear about the extraordinary abilities of his son. He came forward and untied the knot just to free his wonderful child. After being freed by Nanda Maharaj, Krishna was taken onto the lap of the elderly gopis. They took him away to the courtyard of the house and began to clap, praising his wonderful activities. Krishna danced along with their clapping, just like an ordinary child. The Supreme Lord Krishna, being completely controlled by the gopis, sang and danced, just like a puppet in their hands. Sometimes Mother Yasoda used to ask Krishna to bring her a wooden plank for sitting. Although the wooden plank was too heavy to be carried by a child, still, somehow or other, Krishna would bring it to his mother. Sometimes his father, while worshipping Narayan, would ask him to bring his wooden slippers. And Krishna, with great difficulty, would put the slippers on his head and bring them to his father. When he was asked to lift some heavy article and was unable to lift it, he would simply move his arms. In this way, daily, at every moment, he was a reservoir of all pleasure to his parents. The Lord was exhibiting such childish dealings with the inhabitants of Vrindavan because he wanted to show the great philosophers and sages searching after the absolute truth, how the supreme absolute truth, personality of Godhead, is controlled by and subject to the desires of his pure devotees. Hare One day a fruit vendor came before the house of Nanda Maharaj. Upon hearing the vendor call, "If anyone wants fruits, please come and take them from me," the child Krishna immediately took some grains in his palm and went to get some fruits. In those days, exchange was by barter. Therefore, Krishna might have seen his parents acquire fruits and other things by bartering grain, and so he imitated. But his palms were very small, and he was not very careful to hold the grains tight, so he was dropping them. The vendor who came to sell fruits saw this and was very much captivated by the beauty of the Lord. So she immediately accepted whatever few grains were left in his palm and filled his hands with fruits. In the meantime, the vendor saw that a whole basket of fruit had become filled with jewels. The Lord is the bestower of all benedictions. If someone gives something to the Lord, he is not the loser. He is a gainer by millions of times. Do not be afraid to surrender to Krishna. You will lose nothing. You will only gain so many times. One day, Lord Krishna, the liberator of the twin Arjun trees, was playing with Balaram and the other children on the bank of the Yamuna. And because it was already late, Rohini, the mother of Balaram, went to call them back home. But Balaram and Krishna were so engrossed in playing with their friends, they did not wish to come back. They just engaged themselves in playing more and more. When Rohini was unable to take them back home, she went home and sent Mother Yasoda to call them again. Mother Yasoda was so affectionate towards her son that as soon as she came out to call him back, her breast filled up with milk. She loudly cried, "My dear child, please come back home. Your time for lunch is ready, pass. My dear Krishna, oh my dear lotus-eyed child, please come and suck my breast. You have played enough. You must be very hungry, my dear little child. You must be tired from playing for so long." She also addressed Balaram, "My dear Rama, the glory of your family. My dear child, please come back with your younger brother Krishna immediately. You have been engaged in playing since morning, and you must be very tired. Please come back and take your lunch at home. Your father Nandaraj is waiting for you. He has to eat. You must come back so that he can eat." As soon as Krishna and Balaram heard that Nanda Maharaj was waiting for them and could not take his food in their absence, they started to return. Their playmates complained, "Krishna is leaving us just at a point when our plane is at the summit. Next time we shall not allow him to leave." His playmates then threatened not to allow him to play with them again. Krishna became afraid, and instead of going back home, he went back again to play with the boys. At that time, Mother Yasoda scolded the children and told Krishna, "My dear Krishna, do you think that you are a street boy? You have no home? Please come back to your home. I see that your body has become very dirty from playing since morning. Now you come back home and take your bath. Besides, today is your birthday ceremony. Therefore, you should come back home and give cows in charity to the Brahmanas. Don't you see how your playmates are decorated with ornaments by their mothers? You should also be cleansed and decorated with nice dress and ornaments. Please, therefore, come back, take your bath, dress yourself nicely, and then again you may go on playing." In this way, Mother Yasoda called back Lord Krishna and Balaram, who are worshipable by great demigods like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. She was thinking of them as her children. When Mother Yasoda's children, Krishna and Balaram, came home, she bathed them nicely and dressed them with ornaments. She then called for the Brahmanas, and through her children she gave many cows in charity for the occasion of Krishna's birthday. In this way she performed the birthday ceremony of Krishna at home. After this incident, all the elder cowherd men assembled together, and Nanda Maharaj presided. They began to consult among themselves how to stop the great disturbances in the Mahavan on account of the demons. In this meeting, Upananda, the brother of Nanda Maharaj, was present. He was considered to be learned and experienced, and he was a well-wisher of Krishna and Balaram. He was a leader, and he addressed the meeting as follows. "My dear friends, now we should leave here for another place, because we are constantly finding that great demons are coming here to disturb the peaceful situation, and they're especially attempting to kill the small children. Just consider Putana and Krishna. It was simply by the grace of Lord Hari that Krishna was saved from the hands of such a great demon. Next, the whirlwind demon took Krishna away into the sky. By the grace of Lord Hari, he was saved, and the demon fell down on a stone slab and died. Very recently, this child was playing between two trees, and the trees fell down violently, and yet there was no injury. So Lord Hari saved him again. Just imagine the calamity if this child, or any other child playing with him, were crushed by the falling trees. Considering all these incidents, we must conclude that this place is no longer safe. Let us leave. We have all been saved from different calamities by the grace of Lord Hari. Now we should be cautious and leave this place and reside somewhere where we can live peacefully. I think that we should all go to the forest known as Vrindavan, where just now there are newly grown plants and herbs. It is very suitable for pasturing ground for our cows. And we and our families, the gopis with their children, can very peacefully live there. Near Vrindavan is Govardhan Hill, which is very beautiful. And there is newly grown grass and fodder for the animals. So there will be no difficulty in living there. I therefore suggest that we start immediately for that beautiful place. There's no need to waste any more time. Let us prepare all our carts immediately, and if you like, let us go keeping all the cows in front. On hearing the statement of Upananda, all the cowherd men immediately agreed. Let us immediately go there. Everyone then loaded all their household furniture and utensils on the cart and prepared to go to Vrindavan, not attached, immediately leaving home. All the old men of the village and the children and the women were arranged on seats, and the cowherd men equipped themselves with bows and arrows to follow the carts. All the cows and bulls were placed in the front, along with their calves, and the men with their bows and arrows, surrounding the herds and the carts, and began to blow on their horns and bugles. In this way, with tumultuous sound, they started for Vrindavan. And who can describe the damsels of Vraja? They were all seated on the carts and were very beautifully dressed with ornaments and costly saris. They chanted the pastimes of child Krishna as usual. Mother Yasoda and Mother Rohini were seated on a separate cart, and Krishna and Balaram were seated on their laps. While Mother Rohini and Yasoda were riding in the cart, they talked to Krishna and Balaram, and feeling the pleasure of such talks, they looked very, very beautiful. In this way, after reaching Vrindavan, where everyone lives eternally and very peacefully and happily, they encircled Vrindavan, drew all the carts together in a half circle, and this way they constructed a temporary residence. When Krishna and Balaram saw the beautiful appearance of Vrindavan, Govardhan Hill and the banks of the river Yamuna, they felt very happy. As they grew up, they began talking with their parents and others in childish language, and thus they gave great pleasure to all the inhabitants of Vrindavan. Soon Krishna and Balaram had grown sufficiently to be given charge of the calves. From the very beginning of their childhood, cowherd boys are trained to take care of the cows. And their first responsibility is to take care of the little calves. So along with the other little cowherd boys, Krishna and Balaram went into the pasturing grounds and took charge of the calves. And there they played with their playmates while taking charge of the calves. Sometimes the two brothers played on their flutes, and sometimes they played with amalaki fruits and bale fruits, just as small children play with balls. Sometimes they danced and made tinkling sounds with their angle bells. Sometimes they made themselves into bulls and cows by covering themselves with blankets. Thus Krishna and Balaram played. The two brothers also used to imitate the sounds of the bulls and cows and play at bullfighting. Sometimes they used to imitate sounds of various animals and birds. In this way, they enjoyed their childhood pastimes, apparently like ordinary, mundane children. Once when Krishna and Balaram were playing on the bank of the Yamuna, a demon of the name Vatsasura, assumed the shape of a calf and came there intending to kill the brothers. By taking the shape of a calf, the demon could mingle with the other calves. Krishna, however, specifically notices, and he immediately alerted Balaram about the entrance of the demon. Both the brothers then silently approached him. Krishna caught hold of the demon calf by the two hind legs and tail, whipped him around very forcibly, and threw him up into a tree. The demon lost his life and fell down from the top of the tree to the ground. When the demon lay dead on the ground, all the playmates of Krishna congratulated him. Well done, well done. And the demigods in the sky showered flowers with great satisfaction. In this way, the maintainers of the complete creation, Krishna and Balaram, used to take care of the calves every day, beginning in the morning, and thus they enjoyed their childhood pastimes as cowherd boys in Vrindavan. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes on this killing of the calf demon, Vatsasura. A childish mentality gives rise to a type of greediness, resulting in a wickedly mischievous deeds. It also fosters a tendency to be swayed too much by others. This is an unwanted contamination known as Vatsasura, or the calf demon. Krishna very mercifully put an end to this difficulty. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Krishna. Question? Question from Priya Maya. Yasodhama also punished Lord Krishna as her child. How can we handle our children to show the path of Lord Krishna? Sunyamala Chandrini Devidasi. With love and affection and some strictness when they're up to 5. One can start to be a little strict at that time. Tell them how when Krishna was their age, he was naughty, but he's also quite obedient. Although he didn't want to stop playing when they said that Nanda Baba won't take his meals until you come back, then they became very concerned. So although they were naughty, they were very respectful to the elders. So he used to teach the children this respect for the elders, and if we do that, then Krishna will be pleased with them. Hare Krishna. One day, all the cowherd boys went to the bank of the river Yamuna to water their calves. When the calves drank water from the Yamuna, the boys also drank. We're talking after this shutdown, lockdown. Maybe by the end of the lockdown, once again you can go to the Yamuna in Vrindavan and drink the water, which became very polluted. But now there's no factory waste and things pouring into it, so it may be nice and fresh again. I hope so. Yamuna Devi ki jai. After drinking, when they were sitting on the bank of the river, they saw a huge animal which looked something like a heron and was as big as a hill. Its top was as strong as a thunderbolt. When they saw that unusual animal, they became afraid of it. The name of this beast was Bakasura, and he was a friend of Kamsa's. He appeared on the scene suddenly and immediately attacked Krishna with a pointed, sharp beak and quickly swallowed him up. Krishna. When Krishna was thus swallowed, all the boys, headed by Balaram, became almost breathless, as if they had died. But when the Bakasura was swallowing up Krishna, he felt a burning, fiery sensation in his throat. This was due to the glowing effulgence of Krishna. The demon quickly threw Krishna up and tried to kill him by pinching him with his beak. Bakasura did not know that although Krishna was playing the part of a child of Nanda Maharaj, he was still the original father of Lord Brahma, the creator of the universe. Mother Yasoda's child, who is a reservoir of pleasure for the demigods and who is a maintainer of saintly persons, caught hold of the gigantic heron by the two halves of his beak, and before his cowherd boyfriends bifurcated his mouth, just as a child very easily splits a blade of grass. From the sky, denizens of heavenly planets showered flowers like Malika, the most fragrant of all flowers, as a token of their congratulations. Accompanying the showers of flowers was the vibration of bugles, drums, and conch shells. And probably Jai, Jai, Jai Sri Krishna, Jai Gopal. When the boys saw the showering of flowers and heard the celestial sounds, they were struck with wonder. And when they saw Krishna freed from the mouth of the great demon Bakasura, all of them, including Balaram, were so pleased that it seemed as they had regained the very source of their life. As soon as they saw Krishna coming towards them, they one after another embraced the son of Nanda and held him to their chests. After this, they assembled all the calves under their charge and began to return home. When they arrived home, they spoke of all the wonderful activities of the son of Nanda. When the gopis and cowherdmen heard the story from the boys, they felt great happiness because, naturally, they loved Krishna. And by hearing about his glorious and victorious activities, they became still more affectionate toward him. Thinking that child Krishna had been saved from the mouth of death, they looked upon his face with great love and affection. Indeed, they could not turn their faces from the vision of Krishna. The gopis and the men began to converse among themselves about how wonderful it was that child Krishna had been attacked in so many ways and so many times by so many demons, and yet the demons themselves had been killed and Krishna had remained uninjured. They continued to converse among themselves about how so many great demons with such fierce bodies had attacked Krishna to kill him, but by the grace of Hari had not been able to cause even a slight injury. Rather, they had died like small fires in the fire. These demons are allies of Kamsa. They were wizards, rakshashis, etc., who could change their forms. So they generally took these forms of bulls and asses and herons to try to kill Krishna. But rather, they'd all been killed by Krishna. Thus, they remembered the words of Garga Muni, who had foretold, by dint of his vast knowledge of the Vedas and astrology, that this boy would be attacked by many demons. Now, they were actually seeing that this was coming true, word for word. All the cowherd men, including Nanda Maharaj, used to talk of the wonderful activities of Lord Krishna and Balaram. And they were always so much absorbed in those talks that they forgot the threefold miseries of this material existence. This is the effect of Krishna consciousness. What was enjoyed 5,000 years ago by Nanda Maharaj can still be enjoyed by persons who are in Krishna consciousness, simply by talking about the transcendental pastimes of Krishna and his associates. Shavanam Kirtanam, Vishnu Smanam. In this way, Balaram and Krishna enjoyed their childhood pastimes imitating Lord Ramachandra's monkeys who constructed a bridge over the ocean and Hanuman who jumped over the water to Ceylon. They used to imitate such pastimes among their friends and so happily passed their childhood life. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 11th chapter of Krishna, killing the demon, Vatasura and Bakasura. We'll hear what Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has to say about Bhakka. Bakasura Bada. Cunning, duplicity, deceptive behavior, and hypocrisy characterized by a false lifestyle of cheating activities. This necessitates Krishna's killing the stork demon, whose beak he splits in two. Without destroying this tendency, a devotee can never attain pure devotional service to Krishna. No duplicity. Krishna splits it in two. Krishna Bhakti ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Entire Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol.